It's interesting because you say, well, we're a bigger group of people and YouTube started with five or six or 10. But I still feel like the jump rope community, even on Instagram, is so small in a way that everyone kind of knows everyone else, more or less. Um, and I didn't find that I've been in a bunch of different communities, starting with the handstand one, but there were just millions of people on it, and it was very hard to connect with anyone. You could follow your inspirations on there, but not really connect with people. But being in this community and watching it grow, like I feel like I hopped on board a rocket ship where it started small and now it is just blowing up. But I do feel like it's still a pretty tight knit niche of people.
It is, and it's interesting. You have to, yeah, you can definitely view it with different frameworks, considering where jump rope has been historically. It's very large, but when you're talking about different like handstand or like yoga or dance, like those communities are far larger, and it's one of the things that I think we all should be really paying attention to as we continue to grow, because make no mistake, all it's going to do is keep growing. Like like that is the nature of what this sport is it we have people who are 5 years old to 70 years old all jumping and having fun regardless of
Mhm.
their ability, right? And when that's the case, it's destined to be a, a very very large sport activity, recreational enjoyment, whatever you want to classify it as. It's going to be large. So something to be very cognizant of as we move forward is, how do we maintain this? What values do we as jump ropers really hold on to, and what do we really care about, and how do we make sure that we're implementing that consistently throughout time? Because it's always really an interesting dynamic, because it is social media, and social media has its own conventions and its own ways of operating. But if we can consistently remind ourselves that like our main goal is to have fun, our main goal is to support each other, and that is so fundamental to what jump rope is, I think that it will be very impressive, I think, to see what type of a community we have in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, assuming that we really keep these values front of mind, and we focus on them. Because in the competitive realm of things, like altruism and being willing to share and grow, and like, even though it is competitive jump rope and people do show up to win a competition because it's a competition, but the vibe is like, the second competition's over, I mean, even during competition people are really friendly, but like the second it's over, all anyone is doing is sharing the new skills that they've learned. And I spoke with Lee about this in one of our podcasts before. Like, he was explaining when he came up with the AS and the CL bombs, which are incredibly difficult skills. But like, he was explaining the scenario where it was after nationals, and he was hanging out with Nick and some other people in a trick circle. So they've just finished, and I've done the same thing myself, where you finished 5 or 6 days of brutal 6 hours a day jumping. Like, that's and it's the highest level of jumping you can do. It's not let's
Oh
show
my
up and
gosh,
hang. It's
one
like,
hour burns me out. I don't know how you're doing six.
right. And so like, you do that 6 hours a day, 4, 5, 6. I don't know how many days it is now, depending on the competition. But like for me, it was 4 or 5 days of like consistent jumping. And at the end of that, you're literally broken and hurting, and everyone gets together and is like, oh well, I was learning this thing, and someone's like, oh, that's pretty cool, but what if you combine it with this thing? But what if we do this also? And like, and this idea of always sharing and growing together is so fundamental. And it's something that, as we do progress into the larger community status, like you're speaking about with like handstands and stuff, it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out when we keep these values at the core of who we are.